Everybody. How y'all doing? Let me know if you can see me or you can hear me. Hello. You can hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Hello, everybody. I'm going to close my door so there's no reverb.
Okay. Oh, we've got a doggo. We've got a doggo in the house. Hi, doggo. Hey, everybody. I can't see chat, so I don't know who's in here, but welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Mischief Night, Halloween Eve. I don't know if you can see. I've got my
Yeah, they can see you.
spider, my little spider
You guys
Halloween
can
earrings. I
tell
think they're
me if
cute.
my volume's good. Is there any buzzing with my microphone? I can turn it up. I can turn it down.
Turn it up a little.
About like this?
Yeah.
How about now?
I like it up a little bit because you're not
Can
super
you hear me
loud.
from back here?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right.
All right. I can
All
double
working
check.
perfectly. We sound great. Okay.
Okay. Looks like people can hear us.
Are going to talk about flight M370, the Malaysian flight that disappeared over the Indian Ocean in 2014. And it just recently, there's been some stuff found out, some videos from satellites that saw the plane. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm just going to play this video.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
I wonder if you can hear the video.
In 2014, the world was left in shock when Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 mysteriously disappeared. 2 videos surfaced on the internet claiming to reveal the truth. A plane soaring through the night sky captured by satellite camera. But then something incredible happened. 3 unidentified flying objects circled around the plane in a mesmerizing, rhythmic pattern. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, the impossible occurred. The plane vanishes as if it passed through a portal to another realm. Today, we embark on a journey into the heart of this mystery.
Gone. Out of
Disappeared.
midair.
Over 200 people on flight, right?
139 people. No, if that ain't crime, I don't know what is.
Join us as we sit down with citizen journalist Ashton Forbes, who's here to share groundbreaking research and findings. He'll reveal why he believes these videos are authentic and uncover the astonishing truth behind this plane's disappearance. What you're about to hear has the potential to reshape the entire investigation into the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. All right, today we got Ashton Forbes on the show. Ashton, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tony. Glad to be here.
Man, I'm glad you're here. So people by now, if they hit play on this, should have a pretty good idea that this is going to be a wild one. And I just want to let people know before we get into this conversation, how this kind of came about. I'm not real big on Twitter. I don't really do a whole lot on Twitter unless I tend to tweet when I get grumpy about stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's more ragey content that I tweet about. But every once in a while I fade into the Twitter and for whatever reason. And I saw a notification where a guy tagged me in your account. And I have his handle here. It's @FrogRockets. So @FrogRockets, thank you very much for tagging me. And it took me to your page and this thread about your investigation.
Yep.
And I started looking through this investigation about the Malaysian flight that went missing. And I was driving tractor trailer when this happened. And I remember listening to Jay Severin, who is an old political talk around it, doing these maneuvers, and all of a sudden, zap,
It's gone.
it's gone. And I was just like, what? And normally I would see something like that and I'd be like, okay, somebody's faking something, right?
Yep.
But then with all your research and the way you presented it,
H370, I read all the blogs and everything about it. And like you had mentioned, at the end of the investigation, 9 years ago,
Yeah, this video is from the confessionals. The original video is from the confessionals, this interview. So credit to them. Go sub up them if you want. And we will continue.
was kind of just, oh, we don't know what happened with it, right? We're just going to assume that it crashed into the ocean and no one saw it and we didn't find it above or below water. So even before I started this investigation 6 weeks ago, I was already under the impression that the U.S. military knew something about what was going on with this plane. And we are living in a post 9/11 world. Essentially, no way that this rogue 777 is not being tracked by them. As we've gone through the investigation, I think we've proven that they absolutely definitively had been tracking MH370, contrary, regardless of anything else. My only personal goal here is to get the truth out. To me, it's not political at all. I always have a disclaimer in front of all my spaces that I do to say that, this is not political, and being able to maintain it. It seems like it will require some higher level of control. And so after we dug into the investigation, the more
We're going to be jumping around, so we're not watching 2 hours and 24 minutes. So we're going to be jumping around and stopping it to commentary on it.
dug into it, the more I realized I don't think this is actually non-human intelligence. It's certainly still a narrative and a possibility, but there's more evidence that lines up that this is somehow our technology. U.S. government has reverse engineered this, and that what we're seeing in this video is an operation of sorts. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but that's just a little bit of a teaser for into MH370, but never connected it to MH370 and just thought it was a random hoax video or something like that. It wasn't until I saw both videos that were both perfectly in sync and a one from a satellite that I realized there was more to this. So that's when the crusade began, not just with me, but with all of Reddit, essentially. Now, we had thousands of people that were swarming, posting every single day about every aspect of the videos. We have, there were in-depth works done on the turn that we see that confirm that the turn is realistic for a 777 that's making that type of turn while descending. As I mentioned already about the graphics, I had like 3 different testimonials from people with 10 plus years of experience that said that this.
Let's jump ahead a little bit here.
So,
What?
honey, didn't you say there were some inventors on that flight?
Yeah.
And the invention was, I don't remember what
Yeah,
it was, but it was important.
From the chip company.
Chip company.
Yeah, some Chinese guys on it from a chip company. This flight was going to China. So
Were
yes,
were the Chinese? So what about the Americans? Were the Americans inventors also, or there just happened to be 4 Americans?
I think there just happened to be 4 Americans.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm
So
totally
the
positive on
people
that.
that were possibly kind of targeted were the inventors, and they were the Chinese.
Yeah, and I think I would have to research that more to find out what would happen to their patents if they passed away. Would it go to the company or what have you? So I don't know yet.
Well, that's kind of your expertise anyway with patents. So that would be interesting to find out and check, circle back and
Would be.
find out what happened to those patents, what they were.
VFX does not match our VFX. Not only does it not match, it's the wrong color. So most explosions you would see in a video game are white, right? But what we see in our event is a dark thermal event. So not even the same thing. They ended up manipulating it to try to get 1 or 2 frames to match. And even then they don't match. I tried to ask them how many pixels match if you think that they look the same. No one would answer that question. Interestingly enough, they used this debunk got upvoted to the top of the subreddit on UFOs. And it was then used subsequently to shut down all conversation. All of the comments within it, and you can find this if you go search for it, basically talk about how happy they are to have this debunked and how this is finally over. It actually reminds me a lot of the Nazca mummy debate that was going on in the last few weeks, which I just can't understand why people who claim to be for disclosure would be trying to tear other people down that hard. So the discussion got completely banned
Excuse me.
from the subreddit. And at that point, a new subreddit.
Just say something.
Brownies.
What? It's a big delay between
Was
he
developed.
and her.
Airliner abduction 2014. And that's where the migrants that were investigating went to. Now, keep in mind, I had not been on Reddit at this time. I'm just following along, pulling the data off of it, doing my own investigation. And I went on Twitter and I started basically posting on Twitter. I made my persona, using for a command satellite, theoretically. Now, what happened, though? This video got out March 19th, 2014. Did anything happen? Did it blow up in the media? Nothing, right? So now you're the leaker, and you've been leaking this super hot footage, right? You're probably afraid of getting arrested at any moment. So the next thing they do is they leak the thermal from the Gray Eagle, and they leaked that on June 5th, 2014.
So is that the second video footage then?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's the one where you see the colorized version that's very close up
Mhm.
compared to the overhead shot that you see. One thing I want to point out before I get into that on the satellite footage, there's another huge clue in the satellite footage. Regicide Anand's leak is actually, when you look at it, it's two scrunched together videos side by side. When I first saw that, I thought, that's so weird. Why is it like that? I thought maybe it's just duplicated, right? What we're looking at is two different cameras that are banking a 3D stereoscopic image. And now when it comes to satellites, there's not a lot that are like that. There is a set of them that there are, the Naval Ocean Surveillance Satellites, NOS satellites. They used to come in triplicates. As recently as their third generation, which began in the early 2000s, they now come in duplicates only. Now, if we're trying to find a satellite that can do this stereoscopic imaging, it's going to have to be pretty recent, from 2014. Because what we see there is, we're looking at video of satellite, right? Before that, we didn't even know that was possible. We've seen pictures, but video.
You see those orbs rotating around the airplane?
Yeah, in the video, yes.
Yeah, take note of that because comes into play up there.
That's quite a bit of an advancement. Interestingly enough, Trump's 2019 leak of USA 224, which Marco Lambrook was the one who reverse engineered which satellite that was, went up in 2011. When we look at that picture, it looks pretty similar to our picture. We can tell that it's a low Earth orbit satellite because it's coming in at an angle. If it's a geostationary satellite, they're so high up, it's always looking straight down. So we know that we have low Earth or satellites that can take these kind of pictures. Now, with our satellite, quite a bit more difficult. How do we figure out which is the right one? So if you Google NOS, though, you'll find out there's only two that were sent up between like 2010 and 2012 that could really be our satellites. I believe the other one is USA 238. We found that USA 238 is not anywhere close. USA 229 is the one that's close there. Now, not only do we able to prove that it's 3D stereoscopic and that those are two different cameras, and that when you put them side by side, you can see the parallax effect by flipping it back and forth. But my satellite expert, Martin, went ahead and converted it to an actual 3D video where you can put the glasses on and watch it in actual 3D. So that point right there is like, okay, how is anyone faking this? This is just so far beyond what could be faked at this point. So that's the situation with the satellite footage and why it's so compelling right away, and why I think the leaker already felt like they had absolute proof when they leaked the satellite footage. We just couldn't believe it. Ontological shock, 2014. We didn't have what we needed.
Let me ask you a question. And
Yeah.
this is a conjecture. Just you've never talked to the leaker.
Yep.
Why would somebody risk leaking this and do it the way they did it? Because
we're going to jump up a little bit here.
And what all the nuance of the system. And you get a lot of times where people come into you with issues that you have to play a game of telephone to try to figure out, okay, what's the real problem here? Get to that root cause of what the real issue is. And that's really where I test that analytical skill set. I say that's how I got that and grew that skill set for my job. which I think I am applying here. Now, I want to keep in mind, I'm not necessarily an expert on any particular area related to the videos, and certainly not one on hyper advanced technology. But I can go and find the research, understand the research, and apply it myself. Given my limited understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was important for me to get that out there before we got too much further. So where do we go from here as far as the information goes?
Yeah, well, I think we'll just keep running through some of the video information, which is some of the most compelling.
Sure.
So again, that Gray Eagle footage was leaked on June 5th, 2014, which was 2 to 3 weeks after the satellite footage had been widely released. That was uploaded a week later by Regicide Anon. Now, keep in mind, something I mentioned earlier is that there are higher quality versions of these videos that were released later by other people. And what this alludes to is the fact that none of these are the original source, because you can't create a higher version from a lower quality version of a video. And the other version of the satellite doesn't show the stereoscopic effect. It looks like they just pulled one of them, maybe made it a higher quality or what have you.
What does that mean, stereoscopic?
And the stereoscopic is the effect I'm talking about with the two cameras
Gotcha.
looking down, right?
Okay.
Where it creates a
What do you guys think about that? Those orbs rotating around that airplane. Isn't that crazy?
I just
Go ahead.
can't believe the airplane disappeared.
Well,
Like,
you'll see what happened to it. It goes into a portal, like a
Oh.
vortex, and just freaking disappears. It's on video, so it's coming up.
false 3D appearance,
Mhm.
essentially. And that's how we were able to convert it to a real 3D appearance.
whoa.
Which there's a video as well that I have that proves that it's stereoscopic, where someone goes through the editing tools and shows you all the buttons they press to prove
Oh,
that it's
yeah.
a literal stereoscope.
Oh, that is crazy. Show that again. Can you show it again?
Important, because this is highly advanced. Are we talking about Marvel Studios here making 3D movies, or James Cameron making Avatar? Like, and we're talking about now
I have never
dates
seen
that I just
that.
it looks like they just pulled one of them, maybe made it a higher quality or what have you.
What does that mean, stereoscopic?
And the stereoscopic is the effect I'm talking about with the two cameras
Gotcha.
looking
Yeah,
down,
no, I want to
right?
see
Where it
that
creates
again.
a
That
false
is
3D appearance,
insane.
essentially. And that's how we were able to convert it to a real 3D appearance. Which there's a video as well that I have that proves that it's stereoscopic, where someone goes through the editing tools and shows you all the buttons they press to prove that it's a literal stereoscopic effect.
Gone. And the orbs
So
are
that's
gone.
extremely important,
Pause it
because
for a
this is
second.
highly advanced. Are we talking about Marvel Studios here making 3D movies, or James Cameron making Avatar? Like, and we're
Technical
talking about
difficulties.
now the dates that I just
Got it.
Okay.
Now, is that crazy or not?
I've never seen that before. I mean, I know that you and I have watched quite a few documentaries on what happened to that plane and people's spouses that hired private investigators. I mean, we've watched a lot, and there is zero. Like, they combed the ocean. They
didn't find any bodies. They
didn't find any wreckage.
There would have been luggage floating for weeks. There would have been seat cushions. There would have been pieces of the plane. There would have been oil slicks. There would have been witnesses, because it flew over some islands where there is a witness that saw that plane fly over. We're going to get to that.
Wasn't it in the Indian Ocean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they, for a couple of years, I mean, and they had some pretty high-end scientists, doing similar kind of work, where they were also doing like radar and trying to track the plane, or try to determine which direction it may have gone. And I mean, they just came up with zero, and they couldn't believe that they couldn't come up with anything. Like, how does this happen? This is crazy.
Courtney, it was in 2014. And I just want to say hello to Julie, Courtney, the real Piscean Predator, Rogerland 99, Julie, Darcy, Stony Stone, Black Vault News. Welcome.
Hey, honey, somebody says, so Criminal Med says, what about the wreckage found on an island? Was there do you know anything about that?
I don't think there was any wreckage found on an island that could be traced back to that airplane. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Let's continue on.
Throw out there, the time range is extremely narrow, right? We're talking between a version from a lower quality 3 weeks after the satellite footage had been widely released. That was uploaded a week later by Regicide Anon. Now, keep in mind, something I mentioned earlier is that there are higher quality versions of these videos that were released later by other people. And what this alludes to is the fact that none of these are the original source, because you can't create a higher version from a lower quality version of a video. And the other version of the satellite doesn't show the stereoscopic effect. It looks like they just pulled one of them, maybe made it a higher quality or what have you.
What does that mean, stereoscopic?
The stereoscopic is the effect I'm talking about
We
with
saw this
two
on.
cameras
Gotcha.
looking down, right?
Okay.
Where it creates a false 3D appearance,
Mhm.
essentially. And that's how we were able to convert it to a real 3D appearance, which there's a video as well that I have that proves that it's stereoscopic, where someone goes through the editing tools and shows you all the buttons they press to prove that it's a literal stereoscopic
Gotta check the
effect.
brownies
Mhm.
again.
So that's extremely important, because this is highly advanced. Are we talking about shows you all the buttons?
All right, let's skip up a little bit here. All right.
So that's extremely important, because this is highly advanced. Thermal layer was actually added custom over the top. I'm almost 100% sure now. The reason for that is that it was stripped. Someone manually stripped it, and you can see more detail in the clouds, which makes you think that that's not the original version in which it was filmed in. So that's a little bit interesting, because it then says, okay, is the person who leaked it the operator? Like, what technical experience do you need to know to be able to do that? So that's kind of one of the clues that we're still, looking to wrap up. But we've got the broad strokes pretty well down at this point. With respect to the mission statement for these technology, the satellite, the drone, they use a SIG-INT system, which is signals intelligence. And this signals intelligence system is essentially a network that allows all these devices to create a global network to communicate with one another. And so this is where you link NRL 22 to USA 229 to our Gray Eagle. They're working together, looking at the same thing, collecting data from multiple positions on it. It also matches the mission statement for SBIRS, which is the space-based infrared system. So what this point of this system is, at least publicly, is to track missiles and things like that. It has to prove that it's fake. Mission statement for SBIRS, which is the space-based infrared system. So what this point of this system is, at least publicly, is to track space-based infrared system.
I want to try to stop it right where it disappears.
Space-based infrared system.
Ah,
So what this point of this system is, at least signals intelligence system is essentially a network that allows all these devices to
oh, you love playing around
create a
with
global
the computer.
network.
Gone. I didn't catch it.
That's okay. We saw it.
See those little contrails going around with those little orbs?
Yeah.
Those dark circles, those are cold or hot, one of the two. I can't remember.
The dark circles?
The circles that the orbs are leaving behind as they go around. See them?
Oh, I
But
wasn't.
we've got
looking
the
at
broad
that.
strokes pretty well down at this point. With respect to the mission statement
Oh,
for
I see
these
'em now.
technology, the satellite,
trail.
the drone,
Yeah.
they use a SIG-INT
Interesting.
system, which is signals intelligence.
So
And this signals intelligence, this is where you link NRL.
when the plane disappears, do the orbs disappear? I didn't catch that.
What there?
When the plane disappears, do the orbs disappear too?
Yes. They all
Interesting.
go into another dimension or something. I'm not sure.
And so they're saying the orbs are US orbs? Are they saying they're ours?
I don't know, but I think from all the research I've done, I think the technology that we have in Black Ops is like 1,000 years ahead of what you see on the street here. So we have, the ability to have free energy. We have the ability to make sure there's no poverty, free energy, all that. We could do that tomorrow if it wasn't for the greedy sons of bitches that run this country and the world. Don't get me started on that.
That's a different rant.
NRL 22 to USA 229 to our Gray Eagle.
Go to
They're working together, looking at the same thing, collecting data from multiple positions on it.
poof,
It also matches the mission statement for SIBRs, which is the
bam.
Yep. That's crazy.
the Penang. The other things we see is the orbs. So the orbs, the pattern these orbs do is very specific. It I don't know exactly how to equate it, but it looks like sine and cosine, you know, the wave functions that you see. It looks like those wave functions overlapped over the top of each other. It's like too perfect to really have been done by a human almost.
Mhm.
And then if you're in the UFOlogy side, there's so much stuff that can link these to the orbs that people have been seeing in the zeitgeist the last 5 or 6 years, black triangles, you know, all of the above. The orbs, there's a really interesting aspect, and I have one of the videos that we should show with respect to this shows that the trails of the orbs are cold, they're dark.
Yeah, dark.
So not just that, the trails of the orbs aren't actually trails at all. They're not coming from behind the orbs. They're actually in front of the orbs, and you can watch the orbs being pulled towards the
yeah.
trails. In the 10-second clip that strips the thermal layer from it, you can see very clearly that as these things are spinning around the plane, they're actually being sucked forward in the direction of these black trails. And the reason why the black trails appear to be behind them is just due to the speed on which everything is traveling. That's one of the first things where I saw this does not look right. This doesn't look human. It certainly doesn't look like anything a hoaxer could just come up with off the top of their head.
So these trails that are in front of the orbs, do we have any thoughts as to what these trails could be? And I ask this question because what you're saying, and as somebody who does not have a scientific background, but has heard a lot of things,
Yeah,
it sounds, I could almost see how maybe what you're describing is what maybe Bob Lazar described, only caught on video. Because Bob
did tie to the plane. They've actually only conclusively tied one piece, the flapper on.
This
And
is
that piece was in my whole life. I would have said that it's more likely that aliens will come down on their ships on my front lawn and introduce themselves to me personally, rather than something like this happened that I would be.
they talk about the plane, the piece of the plane they found, and he addresses that right here.
Not a happy kitty.
At the center of.
Mhm.
So it's so unbelievable that I'm just along for the ride at this point, trying to bring attention to it, and wherever it leads, it leads.
Yeah.
Hi, George.
Oh, I commend you for that.
You want some more?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, we'll give you some more stuff here. Let's see. So one of the big things people ask is, why is this MH370? Right? This is an airplane. It's a 777, but why is it MH370? First of all, it's the only missing 777. MH370 is the only one. We never found a debris field. Now, this is really, really, really important. And this is part of the reason why there were so many conspiracy theories about it. Because if you don't find a debris field for a 777 crashing into the ocean, it just didn't crash into the ocean. There would have been parts, bodies, luggage everywhere, visible from space. We saw the Wagner guy's private jet from a satellite video in space. So this is just simply impossible. That's why Florence Changi thought that somehow it had to be over the South China Sea. This is why Jeff Wise thought it had to have been flown to Russia, right? It's because these are smart people that realize there's something really amiss here. And the debris that they did tie to the plane, they've actually only conclusively tied one piece, the flapper on. And that piece was, to very little people understand this or know this, but the unique serial plate was missing on that piece, the piece that had the unique serial number on it. And it's a plate that was removed. The excuse is that it fell off in the water or something like that. The serial number that they use is a non-unique serial number to match it to the plane. So to me, this throws the idea that this is definitively a piece of MH370 kind of up in the air.
Do you feel like it is planted then?
Well,
for evidence to just get people to move on?
For me, it doesn't even need to be planted for the videos to be real, right? So first of all, if what we see in that video is real, that's an energetic enough event that a piece of the plane could have gone flying off of it. If it's teleportation, then that can still just be MH370, right? That they disassembled it and dropped it in the ocean months later or something like that. Jeff Wise thinks that it was planted ineptly. I read his blog about it, and he goes into in-depth analysis about how the flap run would have to be in this exact point underneath the water, rotating exactly in order to get the right barnacle growth on it. It requires a lot of coincidental stuff to happen, basically. So even the independent group highly questions the debris. And again, the official search found none. Most expensive and extensive search in history found nothing. The people that found the debris found it washed up on the shore. And a lot of the debris that they claimed, the 40 pieces, almost none of it's tied to MH370. So at the end of the day, from the debris standpoint, what we see in the video is actually completely consistent with the story and all the facts that we know surrounding the debris. So that's one of the biggest things. Now, other people will say, well, the ocean's really big, like it could be anywhere. Not really. The official flight path had the plane running out of gas along the 7th arc. We searched all along the 7th arc, above and below water. We searched the other arcs in the flight path too, all the way to Nicobar Islands. We searched everywhere. They found no plane, nowhere. So there's nowhere else for it to go. Based on the Inmarsat pings, that's the only direction by the official narrative that it could have gone. So something is amiss here. Something doesn't quite add up. And saying that the ocean's real big does not solve the problem either. We've already proven that the U.S. has satellites everywhere, and they would have been able to see this in the water easily.
Is that why you think that we have this video to begin with? Because the satellites are just everywhere and they're filming all the time?
Pretty much. I think that if you look at it, either it had to be set up because that drone is there too, right? Or it had to be an emergency situation where they're reacting to it. And it's really hard to differentiate between either it had to be set up because that drone is there too, right?
Okay. So we got these orbs, and I think they're different than what we saw in California. Let's see.
Can you turn down whatever's still playing back there?
There's nothing still playing back here.
It stopped.
There's a lag. I can hear myself through your device, even though we're in different rooms. This is what they found in California. They tracked.
Oh, I'm not qualified.
This is one of the fighter pilots, I believe, or somebody.
So we describe it as looking like a Tic Tac. It looks
There it is.
like the little breath mint in larger scale, but white, oblong, no apparent flight control surfaces, no apparent visible means of propulsion, and it was maneuvering in a way that we didn't recognize, that we couldn't classify, we couldn't identify.
And what do you think it is, looking back?
Oh, I'm not qualified to do that analysis. Almost 17 years now, and I know there are a lot of folks who are curious and concerned about it, but I gave my debrief, gave what I could in terms of the information and data from that day, and I'll leave it up to the expert analysts to do their job and make that determination.
The report uses this language that there are UAPs who, quote, appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, move abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. Does that sound about like what you saw?
So I can't note, or I can't speak to what the winds were on that particular day. I don't know that we noted them, but it certainly did behave in a way, maneuvered in a way that we couldn't explain, and we couldn't.
I didn't really catch what she was talking about.
One or the other. The satellite's only in that spot for a few minutes. My guess is the satellite's moving and is constantly taking a video, right?
I have to, because I don't have two monitors, I have to do some gymnastics to stop the video. So bear with me, please.
So that you can create this 3D battle map that you could go back and pull up the recording and watch whatever you need to watch.
What else do I got?
It's also controlled by an AI called Sentient that was declassified in 2012, which can operationalize the satellites. Now, I don't know exactly how capable they are, if they can actually change their orbits, slow them down to get better shots or what have you. It seems like it should be impossible, but they do talk about operationalizing them and having a command satellite to make sure that satellites don't run into each other as well. So this Sentient program is basically taking all the assets and it's looking around trying to find, oh, is somebody shooting a missile off, whatever, and then point all your assets at that location. Presumably what happened here is that MH370 goes off track and now you have everybody looking at it. Or you're already looking at it because you know exactly the point where we're going to have the rendezvous.
And just to let you know, our satellites are always looking at just about everything. And they can actually read your license plate from space. So they're pretty good.
Point, and we want to have all the cameras staring at the right spot.
Yeah. it's fascinating because the whole situation that we're talking about, I don't, it's like a perfect storm because I remember when it happened, and people who are listening that maybe you were in middle school when it happened or something. I mean, this was a big deal. I mean, everybody was talking about it. It was so mysterious. We had no idea where this.
And your satellite's at some point in the middle. If you thought the plane was over here, then you might think it's going down this way. But if the plane is actually over on this side, now the plane might be going down this way. The reason why that's important to what you were mentioning before, if we did teleport this plane to hide it or whatever other purpose there might be, where are we bringing it? To a military base potentially, or somewhere where we're going to, hide the people and disassemble the plane, etc.
And that was a theory.
Maldives, 50 miles north of Diego Garcia.
Yep.
Where the plane was so low that the people on the island could make out the windows of the passenger jet. This is extremely close to Diego Garcia. And a lot.
There it is, Diego Garcia.
It is. And that's
dab in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
And highly classified military base, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
at the time this happened, I remember that I was doing a little dive into it, and there was a picture or a text sent by one of the passengers.
Yes.
The metadata from that text or picture, the longitude and latitude had it on Diego Garcia.
Right. And they were safe. Weren't all the passengers alive and safe on Diego Garcia?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, somebody managed to get a text out. That was pretty crazy. But again, we can't prove it. So
a lot of the theories early on were that this plane somehow got to Diego Garcia.
Yeah.
The problem was none of the data pointed to that, right? You couldn't say, okay, here's the Inmarsat pings. This gets us right there. But if you can teleport the plane from the Nicobar Islands to a different location, now the data might look correct, but it's being misinterpreted. So it's going to be extremely difficult to prove that type of theory. So I've essentially focused on the stuff that we can, which is everything up until the video, right? And all the evidence that leads up to that. After that and where it goes, I think that you got to leave that open to interpretation based on what you think about narratives. Like if you think this is a non-human intelligence situation, maybe they're sending them to another dimension, another planet. Maybe they're saving them, right? If you think it's an operation, though, then definitely this plane is being teleported to or near Diego Garcia.
And I told you I kind of go.
That's my theory. What do you think?
Yeah, and I remember you and I talking about that, and I was totally on board with that theory because it made sense at the time. But that was before this came out.
This was only 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
This is all new.
The plane doesn't land there. The co-pilot's cell phone ping. But right now I'm in the camp where I'm not sure if it is possible or not possible, especially when I'm dealing with looking at black holes. So I feel like if we can make black holes, we can probably pretty easily remote hack an airplane.
I think it's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they can definitely fly an airplane and take over an airplane electronically from the pilots.
So this event happens, right? So no matter what you think here of this event, the next thing that happens is the plane turns around and goes directly to Penang Langkawi International Airport, which is the closest airport that can accommodate a 777 in an emergency situation. Keep in mind that Malaysia is not a first world country, and it's also like 2 a.m. or something like that by the time this plane gets across Malaysia and gets to Penang. So the airport's not even technically open for commercial traffic at that point. It could probably take it in an emergency situation, but is it safe to land if you can't communicate or whatever? Not entirely sure. Whatever reason, the plane doesn't land there. The co-pilot's cell phone pings down the base down below when they get over the base there, which leads us to think that they were trying.
Whoa, what happened?
Some way. We don't have proof, but that seems to be what it indicates. And this is one of the last kind of pieces of direct evidence that we have for intent on board this plane. After it gets over Penang, it flies out to the Straits of Malacca. And the last radar location is at 1822. So around 1800, it's at Penang. 1822, it's off in the water now. And it just gets out of range of Malaysian radar. At 1825, the computer systems come back on in the plane, which is pretty odd to me. It's like, oh, you just got out of radar range and now the computer systems turn back on.
Hmm.
And this is the part where it's pretty close now to the Nicobar
Pretty convenient for that to happen.
Yep.
Islands. You know, we got another 15 minutes and now we're going to be at the Nicobar Islands location. So we believe that it flew from the last radar location to our Nicobar Islands location. This is consistent with the official flight path is as well. And this is where our witness comes into play. I had no idea that there would be a witness that is this credible, that literally saw the plane fly right over her. She was in the spot going from India to Phuket in Thailand. She was right in the Strait of Malacca, and she sees a uniform orange glowing plane coming from the east, right where our plane will be coming, flies up and north around her, doing a counterclockwise rotation, just like we see in the videos. She says that it seems so low that she was afraid it was going to crash into the water. Just like, remember, we're looking at the videos, the plane is low, it's descending, and it's turning. She also says that she sees black smoke coming from the plane. Keep in mind, it's pitch black. The moon is set, the sun is set. There is no light whatsoever. So she's seeing a uniform orange glowing plane. She doesn't mention anything.
You know, this is the eyewitness at
Wait.
night.
How can you see black smoke at night?
Because the plane is glowing orange, I think.
Huh. Okay.
Anything about orbs, just seeing this plane, which is interesting because our cameras are filming in infrared. So we've actually wondered for several weeks, are these orbs even visible to the human eye, the naked human eye?
I doubt it.
And I'm fairly confident now that they are not.
Yep.
But that is something that we kind of want to solidify and find out, because you know that can have huge implications on UFOlogy and you know any other supernatural stuff, right? And that could lend credence to the idea of ghosts and whatever other stuff as well. So the witness sees the plane. She gets freaked out by what she sees. She's afraid to report it. Not sure if she even should. She's not even sure if she saw what she saw, which is so odd to me, because if I see MH370 and I see it fly to the South Indian Ocean, I'm about to be famous. I'm about to be super excited, right? I'm going to help solve this mystery. But her reaction was more of, how do I explain what I saw? And how do I explain it with these experts who are telling me that it went to the South Indian Ocean? So I think that there's more to the story with our witness. And I want to report something for the first time here on your show, which is that we have made contact with the witness. Kate T has agreed to work with MH370X to help solve the mystery for us. And this is extremely exciting news for us, because she may be a firsthand witness that saw this plane disappear out of thin air. And if so, she can corroborate the events of the video and all of our facts to date.
Wow.
I've been privy to see some of the communication between you and her. And I don't know if you said it like this, but it was generally, you were like, I know you saw the plane disappear. Let's talk, you know? And so, but I think it's good the way you addressed her. I think is good, because you ripped the Band-Aid off. You know, listen, I don't want you feeling you're crazy. We're investigating this. You know, you don't have to be like, you don't have to hear us say we'll believe you, because you've seen the video, you know the angle we're going with, and there's a reason why you're here. She didn't have to.
So
imagine.
she saw it. Wait, pause. So she literally witnessed it disappear?
I don't think she witnessed it disappear per se. I think she witnessed it going over the islands she was on.
Okay.
But I'm not positive.
Right? And you're sharing this. Imagine a year from now, 6 months from now, a few weeks from now, all of a sudden the plane reappears where it disappeared
and lands.
And they're like, yeah, we did a lot of this. There's just trust us. It was crazy. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we came we're here. I mean, nuts. If it did reappear though, let's just say whether it's 5 minutes or 20 years, would it have to reappear at the same place?
That's the hard part too. So we've been actually trying to figure that out. And like you can see from the video, it's turning and landing. So one of our first assumptions is the orientation of the plane matter? Is that going to determine somehow the direction of travel? And it might not even go forwards. It might go backwards from that location too. Honestly, we are just speculating. We have no idea. But there has to be some way to determine where it's going, when it's going to show up, right? Right now, it's all just essentially speculative, which is fun. It's fun to think
sure.
about. But yeah, with no way to know for sure.
In the video, after the plane disappears, were the orbs gone as well?
Yeah, the orbs disappear as well. And I feel really stupid. On the first podcast I mentioned, I said that when you go through a door, does the doorway disappear? And, you know, they thought, well, okay, yeah, okay, sure, you got me on that. But really, is that necessary, right? If the orbs are somehow acting as either inducing the portal or potentially as a barrier, right, it would make sense for them to disappear if it's being teleportation. Actually, that's the thing I want to talk about next, which is the science behind this, right? So I thought that wormholes and teleportation were just a thing of science fiction. And then I went and Googled it and I found that there were actually a number of articles, not articles, but scientific papers talking about humanly traversable wormholes. And that's why I wrote a piece called Traversable Wormholes, because all three papers essentially said you don't need exotic material to create a wormhole. We always thought you would need antimatter, which is something that we couldn't create and may not. I mean, we believe that it's real, but we don't have it physically available to us right now. So the paper said you don't need that. Then the paper says you can potentially hold a wormhole open long enough for a human to be able to traverse through it, and the gravitational force that they feel would not kill them, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
It might be strong. You might feel a jerk, but it's not going to kill you, right? It's not going to smash you to bits. The third paper says you might be able to create a shell, a very thin shell, not necessarily matter, but like an energy shell or some type of shell around the object that you
Very interesting stuff here.
want to allow it to humanely traverse through the wormhole. And that's the part where I went, oh, wow. Okay, what are we talking about with these orbs? Because now these orbs can be doing several things. They could be entangling the plane for quantum teleportation. They could be removing excess particles from the area around the plane that they are going to like potentially interfere, because one of the paper says that you can't have excess particles fall into the black hole that you're creating. Otherwise, it could basically destabilize it. So it could be possible they're cleaning that, or it could also be possible they're doing those things and inducing the black hole itself for the portal effect. Again, this is all really out there and we're just kind of assuming, but a lot of these papers corroborate what we're seeing here as being potentially real.
And it's on such a big level too. I mean, when those papers were written, I imagined and to pursue in line of thinking. And just to be clear, you've said this several times now. The witness being KT, she saw a glowing plane. So not just a plane, but a plane that was glowing like it was
orange uniform glow that almost
like a halo.
Looked like it had a halo over it, is what she said.
And that was right before it disappeared, or was it glowing? It's like from the time she started seeing it.
Yep, it's from the time she started seeing it. So she saw it for about 5 to 10 minutes, she says, and she watched it come from far away. She thought at first it was a missile as it's coming at her, right? Probably from the east. So she's watching it come in. As she sees it from an angle, she starts to realize that no, that's not a missile, that's a plane, right? And as it circles around, it comes around the back of her boat and goes south past her boat, and that's when she can tell that it's a passenger plane, right? Because she can see it clearly enough and low enough that it's a passenger plane. Now, this is the part where her sighting is very odd, which is then she claims she went down into the cabin to make some tea or something. If you're watching a glowing freaking plane in the pitch black, the last thing I'm doing is going downstairs to stop watching it, right? So here's what I think really happened. I think she saw the plane literally disappear. And then she said, okay, that's crazy. I'm going to go down and do that. And then she comes back up, and now she's watching the after effect of whatever we saw happen, an orange glow halo out there. And she simply presumes that the plane went to the South Indian Ocean because that's what everybody told her she should think, right? That to me is what I think is going to be the real story. But again, as I talk to her in the next coming days, I think that will start to really clear up and tell us really what actually happened.
Okay, that's about it for that video.
That is
Crazy
stuff. That is crazy. I mean, a witness.
Space Force was established December 20th, 2019 by Trump by the National Defense Authorization Act signed into law, which is Kiki and Lily show.
What?
I'm just reading the chat. She said,
oh,
Trump started the U.S. Space Force December 20th, 2019. But we've had space vehicle activity in the Black Ops programs for years. I mean, the Black Ops, the way they operate is that they're compartmentalized so that nobody working on the project knows what the rest of the project is doing. So you might be working on a part of an anti-gravity something engine, but you don't get to see the whole vehicle or what it's for. You're working on the stealth technology part of it, but you don't know the rest of it.
Right.
That way nobody knows what the real story is for the top few people that are in control of everything.
Right. It's on a need-to-know basis.
That's right.
So
does anybody want to come up here and chop it up?
So I'm just still stuck on this witness because that's new to me. And I can't believe I bet she saw it disappear, but she didn't want to, she didn't, she was like, no, people will think I'm crazy.
I just dropped the link if anybody wants to come up and chat. I know Dolly is supposed to go on pretty quick here. Let me see. I don't see him. I thought he said he was coming on in 30 minutes right when we started. Oh, there he is. He's talking right now. He hasn't started the panel yet.
All right. Well,
Oh, nobody wants to come up.
that was very interesting.
We'll end this live stream here, and this will be successful test number 1. And I sure
Yeah.
appreciate everybody stopping by and watching our little presentation. And we will catch you on the next one, which will be soon. Maybe even tonight I'll do it.
You'll
live
come back
stream.
and chop it up later on after I go to bed.
Yeah, chop it up with some people. All right,
All right, you
folks.
guys. Thanks.
Love
Thanks
ya.
for stopping by.
Thanks for
And
everybody being here. Peace.
happy Halloween. Talk to you
Yeah.
guys later.
All right, bye.
Bye.